sitting down with Tricia Cleppee. One of the cool things about her is she has been in the digital marketing space for what over 6 years.
Yeah.
A little bit about her background. She went to UNC, so go North Carolina. One of
Go
our
Heels.
Yeah, go Heels. And she's really been obsessed with the content strategy piece in the digital marketing world. Um, some fun things about her. She loves to cook with her mom in the kitchen, some Filipino food. So I'm really excited to learn more about your background and
Yeah.
also get you to share some of your powerful nuggets of how you're able to help businesses pretty much just go to the next level in terms of their content. And I want to add one more thing. She's done work with content strategy, being a part of like the Obama White House administration. She's done some stuff in terms of content around it, so she knows what she's doing. She's able to put things in place and get results. So, without further ado, Tricia, how are you?
Yes, thank you for asking. I'm doing well. I've been saying in 2020 adjusted terms, I'm doing okay, you know? So thanks for having me and very happy to be here. A little bit of background on me, not because I think that that's the most important thing we can be talking about, but it really helps you understand how I got to my obsession with content marketing. So like you said, I have been in digital marketing for the past 6, 7 years. I have worked both in agencies. I've worked as a freelancer and contractor. I've also worked as a very early member of many startups. But specifically, I kind of came to this expertise through the legal cannabis industry. I come from a family that has dealt with addiction issues and things that I have seen firsthand that really led me to, from a values driven place, wanting to understand a little bit more about drug policy reform and things that were really important to me on a values level. And I actually got one of my first digital marketing, digital strategist jobs as part of the campaign to legalize cannabis in California.
Wow.
And so I was very, very lucky to be in a lot of those conversations and rooms where we were talking about, not just making cannabis a booming legal industry, but also the impacts of, the communities most affected by the previous drug laws and all of the things. So I got to learn a lot in my very first campaign job. And campaigning is all about communication, right? And so we created a ton of educational content. And so I learned a lot about the importance of creating those, like that sort of grassroots type of content that people can understand and digest, and answering the question, thinking about the questions that your audience is going to ask and trying to answer them in your content before they even know to ask it. So that's sort of where I learned that. And then after that, after we did it, we legalized California, and I moved to DC, and I was the first marketing hire of a now large, but at once was very small, market research firm in DC, all about the emerging cannabis market. And so there is where I really saw the need for strong content marketing efforts, and for a number of reasons, because cannabis is not, you're not allowed to do paid ads on many platforms. There's a lot of limitations around that specific industry, and so you have to do a lot more organic content to be able to game out there. You're not going to be able to rely on putting a bunch of money into Facebook ads or
Wow.
into Google ads. And so what you have to do is get your organic SEO, your organic content really, really early. And so we very strong content marketing system there at that company. I mean, just trial by fire. I was Googling everything. I was a young marketer. I was like only a couple years out of college. I didn't even know what I was doing was content marketing. I didn't know that there was a name for it. I just knew we were limited by so many things. We were a small company, so small budgets, limited by what these platforms were able to say and do. So really just trial by fire, Googled a lot, messed up a lot, and really did like an ad hoc sort of created this content management, which has scaled and grown. And it's amazing seeing that company grow. So fun. Actually, one of our clients at my current agency came to us and they were like, yeah, we're thinking of partnering with this company that has this amazing content. And they said who it was. And I was like, oh yeah, I did that.
Wow. That's incredible.
So it comes full circle. But yeah, so essentially at the heart of how I think about content marketing, I think a lot of business owners, I love working with small business owners. I think they are like the salt of the earth, the most wonderful, like driven, hardworking group of people in America. And I like just love working with small business owners so much. But a lot of small business owners think, okay, I know I need a blog. And I know about this thing called SEO, and I know about this thing called keyword research, and I know I need blog content. And I think that is obviously that's true. All of those things are accurate, but we are moving into a world in which you can get a little bit more sophisticated, while actually taking some of the work out of that for you. So I like to think about marketing as like I just said, thinking about the questions that your customers are going to be asking, creating content and sending it to them before they even think about asking it. So you're kind of thinking for them and you're leading them to a path that ends up with you as the solution, but on the way you're educating them and giving them the answers that they need. And so I really, really love content marketing from an education perspective. And you don't have to, basically every company can offer some sort of education around what they do. It doesn't matter if you're a snacks company or if you are this massive market intelligence company. There's something that for your audience, there are questions you can answer that no one else can answer.
I love it.
Yes.
So I have a question for you.
Go for it.
So one of the things I like about your story, and thank you for sharing your story. When you started out, it was a lot of trial by fire. You was trying to figure out, and there's a lot of companies right now that are probably in that same scenario you were in years ago. For you, was there anything that just clicked for you? Was there a moment or kind of a time frame where things just clicked? And what did you do to, if you can remember, what did you do to make that shift, or what did you notice when things started to work?
Absolutely. So when I noticed that we needed to change up our content marketing strategy, when I saw that we had created a ton of great blog content and our traffic was going up, and that was wonderful. Our page views were going up. All of these like really great analytics were on the upward trend. But then you ask yourself, okay, well, great. I got more page views. I've had more visitors to my site. But what does that really mean for me as like, how do I follow up with those people? I don't gain any information about the person because they visited my blog. I don't get their email address. I don't get their name. I don't get their phone number. So what can I reasonably do to follow up with these potential leads that are showing up on my site, right? Because that's the point. You're creating content to be able to garner the attention and to create a relationship with a potential customer that can hopefully evolve into real money coming into your pocket and solutions going into their systems, right? So that is what really hit me was, okay, well, we are hitting all of our targets on these important metrics, page views, visitors, but we're not actually filling our leads, right? We're not like filling our, we're not collecting anything from them. So how do we make it so that our content is actually working for our lead management systems and our sales teams? And so what you have to do there is create content that is worthy of a download. and worthy of them putting in their email, putting in their name, putting in their phone number, so that you can continue ongoing conversation with them. And
I
so
love
that
it.
was really the fact that it stuck, where I was like, okay, well, we're putting all of this effort into all of this amazing blog content, but what are we actually getting back in return for that, other
Yeah.
than more visitors to our site, you know? So really just taking control back of those communication systems with your audience. So you think through, like I said, what your audience, those questions that they're going to ask, and then you can create a really simple piece of content. And instead of just offering it as a blog post free to everyone, you put it behind a form that requires, you know, them to fill out 3 things: their name, their phone number, their email. You can get more detailed there if you want to. But then you actually get something in return for that amazing content that you're spending the
Right.
time to create.
I love
And you can
that.
continue that. Yeah.
So that leads me to one of the next questions that I'm curious about, and I think a lot of business owners are curious about. So you have a lot of owners right now that are transitioning online. They may already have established businesses with an
Yeah.
established customer base, but now they're forced to figure out this new world. When you're trying to figure out the content, where I think a lot of business owners have a question of where do you start in terms of figuring out what you should focus on with your writing, with your content. What's your advice on that in terms of that
Yes.
process?
I have a hot take on this. I think, and I'm a marketer, so I know, because I have said this line many times. We always tell our clients, like, you know your customer best. In reality, it's actually the total opposite, right? It's your customer actually knows your business best, because
Mm,
your customer is the one that is experiencing the problems that you are trying to solve. So your customer actually knows your business and your use cases and, you know, the value of your solution better than you could ever know it, really. And so I like to turn that on its head, and I like to, instead of trying to assume, and I will say that this is for companies that are already established and have customers. This is a great method for them to use. I would say, instead of trying to think through it on your own, if you have a couple customers that love you and are willing to do a 20-minute interview for a $50 Amazon gift card or whatever you want to give them, spend that time and literally get on an interview with them, record it, and just listen to their language. Listen to the questions that they ask. Listen to the problems that led them to you. And that's where you're going to find all of those amazing nuggets to create content around. So here's an example. A client that I created a content system for, they are a packaging provider. And so they work with consumer packaged goods, and they do sustainable packaging.
mm-hmm.
And so they had all of these amazing customer testimonials and interview videos. And I asked them, like, well, what have you done with these? And they were like, well, the videos are on the site and that's about it. And so what we did, one of my first things I did when I onboarded that client was to listen to every single customer testimonial and interview that they had. And I literally took a highlighter. You can pay $25 to get a transcript done of any video. And then I literally printed it out and took a highlighter. And I highlighted what I call the aha moments, where I'm listening to a customer and I'm literally hearing what they were thinking and asking before they ended up buying this solution and investing in this solution. And so just through that exercise right there, I have about 20 pieces of content I could create that is worthy of a lead giving me their name, number, and their email, so that I can continue with them moving forward. If you are a company that has customers already and you are just pivoting right now because of current climate and environment that we're in, I would really recommend going back to those customers, going back to the basics. Listen to them. Actually listen to their language that they use too, and literally repeat it back to them. So say things in your or your content, in your blogs, in your social media, any of the content you're creating, literally use the language of your audience in that content, and you're going to see the effects, and you're going to see that you are going to be meeting your leads before they even know they need you.
I love it. No, it makes perfect sense. And actually, in my world, in the email marketing world, I literally have, customers do the same thing. So I'm it just hearing what you're saying. I'm just like, man, this is. I feel the same way. With that being
Yeah.
said, like, so one of the things I've ran into in my world, and I'm pretty sure you've run into it, a lot of companies, they get to the point where they're starting to collect information, whether it's interviews or videos or testimonials, and then the question comes, how much is enough? Like, should I get 10 testimonials or 20? Do I stop at 5? Is that good enough? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. When that situation, when clients get to that point, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. Again, I think I might have a little bit of a hot take on this one too. I think the way that people think about content is like quantity over quality. So just like continue creating. I prefer to take a different approach where I like to repurpose and reuse content, and double down on content before I create a bunch more. So, focus on one lead magnet, that one piece of content that's super educational and super valuable to your very specific to your customer and the solution you provide them. Make that one piece of content and start, and then share it everywhere. Make a version of it for LinkedIn. Make a version of it for, all over the place. Like, really reduce, reuse, repurpose for your content. That is my approach, and I think that is the better approach for a lot of smaller businesses or people that are just getting started on content marketing, rather than invest in 60 posts. Why not focus on one piece of content that is really valuable and that you are going to actually drive leads from, that you are going to get that contact information from your downloaders for? Really focus on that, and then this and re-promote it everywhere all the time. So yeah, to answer your question, when is enough? I would say start small and really focus on like the 2 to 3 questions that only you can answer, or only you and your competitors, your direct competitors, can answer for your audience. Really hone in on those questions and create great content. I would say that for me, the ratio that I typically go for is, for any piece of carrot content, is what I call carrot content lead magnet. That's a term for a piece of content, a PDF, a downloadable that sits behind sort of a information wall. So you have to put in that contact information to be able to download it.
Mm-hmm.
So for every one of those pieces of content that you create, only do 2, 3 blog posts for each one. You don't need to have a million blog posts on your site immediately.
Yeah.
Start small and focus on quality. Focus on answering those questions that only you can answer, that your audience is going to ask. And then from there, just blast it out into the world. There's a lot of focus on the creation of content and not enough focus on the promotion of established content. And so, we can create content all day long, but if there's not enough people actually going to see the content, what's the point?
Right. Okay. I love it. So that leads me to, I only have 2 more questions for you. You pretty much answered just about all the questions I could think of. So the first question is, every area that I've interacted with in terms of with the client in terms of digital marketing, they're always concerned or curious about how fast can I get results. Should in the world of content strategy, should I guess the first part of this question is, should they have an expectation on a certain timeline, and if so, what's a healthy timeline they should expect to get some kind of results?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's definitely a tough one because, there are so many. It is on, obviously like what your definition of results are, and
Yeah.
all of these things, and we can get into all of the nuance in another interview. But the idea is correct that you content marketing is not going to be, it's not a flip of the switch,
Yeah.
not going to immediately see results. And it takes time to get your SEO working. And it also it might take technical updates to your site to be able to get your
Yeah.
SEO what you want it to be. Like SEO is a whole beast,
Oh yeah.
It really is. And it's its whole own thing. So, and it's important. And it really does impact how quickly you're going to get results on your content marketing, obviously. So it's a great question. I wish I had a hard and fast answer. I would say if you are really working hard and doing a good job on your content marketing, even if you're only doing, like I said, a small batch of pieces of content to start, 6 months maybe before you really start seeing these work on their own and work for themselves. But that's the beauty of content marketing, is that yes, it takes a little bit longer on the front end to get these things set up, but then they just work and they're automated and they do it on their own, and you can set it and forget it once they're done, which is a business owner's dream. You create this amazing piece of content, and then a year later, still year, 2 years, 3 years, you're still getting people downloading that content, because the questions, if you're really focused on providing good quality content, those questions are going to remain the same. So your content is this evergreen content that continues to work for you and continues to bring you leads for time, for whatever time, as long as it's on your site. So while it does take a little bit longer on the front end, and I know that's not something that a lot of clients love, you are creating a system that can run on its own, and you can set it and forget it once it's up.
I love it.
And then a year later, you're just like, oh, my lead list on this wall of carrot content has gotten hundreds of downloads since I last checked. This is great. I have a whole new lead funnel to follow up with.
I love it.
Yeah. Longer timelines on the front end, but the payout is so it continues to be worth it.
Awesome. I love it. And one last question for you. If, there's a lot of advice you could give. If you had, a few seconds to give advice to a company, anything you want about content strategy, what would that be? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to one of the other things we talked about, and just going back to those customers. Get in the mindset that they actually know more about your product than you do. And really like hold that in your mind, create space for that in your minds, that your customers actually know way more about what you're offering, because they have literally been on the journey and they found you. Right? And so what led them up to finding you? And study that path, like really study that path and map it out, literally map it out. That's your customer journey, right? And so like listen to those customer, or read those reviews, try to get customer interviews if you can. Even if you don't have an actual product out in the world yet, you can still get informal interviews from people that are good leads. Ask them questions about what products they do use. Ask them about what issues they're facing, and really study those customer journeys, because that's where your best content is always going to come from. You are always going to find the best content that will convert into sales when you really study that customer journey, map it out, understand it, and answer those questions way.
Well, awesome. You've given me a wealth of knowledge, and I'm excited for everybody who get a chance to check this out. And I'm looking forward to you speaking at the Digital Shift Summit coming up pretty soon. So I'm super pumped. I'm going to go ahead and just stop the recording right now.